Back off my land! This ends now!
You've lost, Harlan. Sign or face the consequences.
I never imagined that a simple refusal to join a neighborhood group could turn my quiet farm life into a nightmare of threats, sabotage, and outright war. But that's exactly what happened on my family's old homestead in rural Indiana, where the cornfields stretch for miles and folks still wave to strangers on the back roads. It started innocently enough, or so I thought, but it escalated into something that tested every ounce of my resolve. As a man in my 60s, who'd spent decades tending to my soybean fields and cattle, I figured I'd seen it all: droughts, market crashes, even the occasional dispute with neighbors over fence lines. But this was different. This was personal, and it made me question just how far a person should go to protect what's theirs. Stick with me, because what unfolded next will have you on the edge of your seat, wondering if justice really prevails or if the system is stacked against the little guy. The trouble began on a crisp autumn night last year. I'd just finished my evening chores, checking on the herd in the north pasture, when an unnatural silence fell over the farm. Normally, you'd hear the lowing of the cows settling in, maybe a coyote howl in the distance, but that night, everything went still, like the land itself was holding its breath. My heart started pounding as I slipped on my boots and headed for the door. Max, my faithful German shepherd who'd been by my side for 7 years, was already growling low in his throat, his ears perked up and fur bristling. He'd been trained for herding and protection, and I trusted his instincts more than my own sometimes. Through the kitchen window, I spotted headlights slicing through the darkness near the front gate I'd reinforced just last spring. They weren't friendly lights. They swung back and forth like spotlights hunting prey. The crash came next, the splintering of wood that echoed like a gunshot. My cows panicked, their hooves thundering as they scattered. Then, a sharp bellow of pain from one of the heifers cut through the air, and I felt a surge of rage. Someone was hurting my animals, my livelihood. I grabbed my old Remington shotgun from the cabinet, loaded it with buckshot, and stepped out into the chill, Max bounding ahead like a shadow. The floodlights I'd installed flipped on automatically, illuminating a scene straight out of a bad dream. 3 burly men in black hoodies stood amid the wreckage of my gate, one wielding a tire iron still splintered with fresh wood. The gate hung crooked, posts torn up, and beyond it, my herd huddled against the far fence, terrified. Worst of all, a young heifer lay near the debris, a nasty gash on her flank from where she'd caught on the sharp metal in the chaos. The metallic scent of blood hung in the air, fueling my fury. Max didn't wait for orders. He charged like a bolt of lightning, zeroing in on the guy with the tire iron. The intruder stumbled, dropping something from his jacket as he backed away, cursing. Max latched onto his pant leg, not biting deep but holding firm, growling ferociously. The other 2 froze, eyes wide as I leveled the shotgun. "Get the hell off my land," I barked, my voice steadier than I felt. I fired a warning shot skyward, the boom reverberating across the fields. They scrambled to a beat-up truck parked just off my property, tires spinning as they peeled away into the night. In the aftermath, I knelt by the injured heifer, her wound shallow but needing stitches. Max stood guard at the property line, every muscle taut. As I surveyed the damaged, splintered posts, scattered tools, I spotted the dropped item, a worn wallet. Inside, a driver's license for a guy named Derek Hale, but tucked behind it was a crumpled check stub from Willow Creek Community Association. My stomach twisted. I'd heard about FEMA pushy homeowners group trying to rope in rural properties like mine. Their president, Elizabeth Vance, had been hounding folks for months. Was this her doing? The thought simmered in my mind as I called the vet and patched up the gate temporarily. Little did I know, this was just the opening salvo. Morning brought no peace. The sun rose over my fields, highlighting the twisted metal and limping heifer, now bandaged but skittish. My coffee went cold as I measured for repairs. The herd still clustered near the barn instead of grazing freely. A neighbor, old Tom Riley from the adjacent plot, hollered over the fence. "Jack, everything all right? Heard a ruckus last night." I filled him in, and his face hardened. That Vance woman's been circling like a vulture, pushing her association on everyone. Sure enough, around mid-morning, a sleek silver Mercedes purred up my driveway, stopping just shy of the broken gate. Out stepped Elizabeth Vance, looking every bit the corporate shark in her tailored gray suit and heels that sank slightly into the gravel. Her dark hair was pinned back perfectly, and she carried a briefcase like a weapon. She approached with a smile that didn't touch her eyes, glancing at the damage as if it were a minor inconvenience. "Mr. Harlan," she said in that polished tone, extending a manicured hand. "I heard about your little mishap from some concerned locals. Terrible thing for a hard-working man like yourself." She gestured at the gate vaguely, her sympathy as fake as a $3 bill. "This is precisely why our Willow Creek Community Association exists to provide security and standards for properties like yours." I wiped my hands on my jeans, Max at my heel, eyeing her suspiciously. "Funny you show up now, Ms. Vance. Almost like you knew about this ahead of time." She didn't flinch, just opened her briefcase and pulled out a thick packet. "I have a membership agreement here. For a modest fee, you'd get enhanced patrols, value protection, and community guidelines. Given last night's events, I'm sure you see the benefits." I scanned the document, my blood pressure rising with each page. Monthly dues of $400, mandates on paint colors for barns, even restrictions on crop rotations and livestock breeds. Buried deeper was the kicker. All farm products had to go through association-approved buyers, essentially handing them control of my sales. It wasn't community, it was a takeover. "This is more than security," I said, handing it back. "This is you trying to own my operation." Her smile turned icy. "Mr. Harlan, properties outside our association often face challenges. Vendors prefer dealing with compliant members. It'd be a shame if your soybeans suddenly couldn't find buyers due to quality concerns." The threat hung there, veiled but clear. She was saying she'd ruin me if I didn't sign. As she drove off in a puff of dust, I felt the noose tightening. Was this how modern America worked, big groups bullying small farmers into submission? That afternoon, as I dealt with the vet bill and filed a police report, a folded note appeared in my mailbox. No stamp, no address, just scrawled words. "Don't sell your crops tomorrow. They've been tampered with." My hands shook as I read it. Was this a warning or a trap? I collected soil and feed samples anyway, driving them to the county extension office for testing. Paranoia set in. Every shadow seemed suspicious. The next day escalated everything. A caravan of vehicles rolled up, trucks and SUVs parking in a half-circle by my barn. Out poured about a dozen people, led by Elizabeth in another power suit, clipboard in hand. "Mr. Harlan, we're conducting a routine wellness check for community standards," she announced loudly. I hadn't agreed to any check, but they swarmed in like they owned the place. Inside the barn, they poked around equipment, most looking clueless. But I caught one guy near the feed bins slipping something from his pocket, a small vial. When he saw me watching, he bolted. Then, a guttural moan from the stalls. One of my prize cows, Daisy, was foaming at the mouth, legs wobbling, eyes glazed. She'd been fine that morning. Panic hit as I rushed to her, but Elizabeth was already snapping photos. "This looks like a health hazard," she declared. "We'll need to alert authorities for safety." The vet arrived later, but by then, Daisy's symptoms had vanished mysteriously. "Could be stress or something ingested," he said, puzzled. But the damage was done. Rumors flew through town. My farm was contaminated, my crops unsafe. Longtime buyers canceled orders. The local co-op suspended my account. Within hours, my phone rang with worried calls. "Jack, is it true your herd's diseased?" Years of trust evaporated overnight. Was this justice? A man defending his independence, only to be smeared by lies? Desperation grew as I found a vial half-buried in the hair residue inside that tested as a mild toxin. Someone had poisoned my cow for show. Then, Max dug up a loose bolt near the irrigation pump. Inspecting it, I discovered the system sabotaged, valves loosened, ready to flood or fail. If it had run unchecked, it had ruined my fields. I called Sheriff Bill Dawson, a solid guy in his 50s I'd known from church suppers. He examined it, nodding gravely. "This ain't kids, Jack. This is deliberate." As we talked, voices rose from the pasture. We hurried over to find 4 men with cameras prodding my cows, scattering white powder near the trough, staging evidence of neglect. Max charged again, knocking a camera into the mud. The sheriff intervened. "What the hell are you doing on private land?" Their excuses crumbled. The memory card showed doctored photos meant to damn me. But as they left, I spotted fresh tire tracks in the woods, someone watching us. Cigarette, but still warm. Who was pulling these strings? The invasion of privacy sparked debate in my mind. When does self-defense cross into paranoia? The tension peaked at the county board meeting that week. The hall was packed, air thick with whispers. Elizabeth presided like a queen, introducing a slick expert from a supposed health board. He droned on about regulations, but his facts rang false. I stood up. What specific issues did you find on my farm? He stammered, glancing at her. Then, my neighbor Martha Jenkins rose, phone in hand. I filmed this last week, strangers dumping powder by Jack's troughs. The video played, grainy but damning. The room erupted. Elizabeth snapped, out of context. But her composure cracked. She shouted, "This man's a threat. His refusal endangers us all." Her venom shocked even her allies. Sides formed, farmers backing me, newcomers with her. It was a powder keg. Was community control worth the loss of freedom? The meeting dissolved in chaos, but not before Elizabeth hissed at me privately. "You've started a war you can't win." The final blow came at dawn. My entire herd without ear tags, clipped clean overnight. Without IDs, no buyer would touch my products. Accusations flew. I was hiding sick animals, dodging regs. Bureaucracy stalled replacements, my savings drained. Max unearthed a bag of the tags hidden in the shed, footprints leading to a vantage point. This was pro-level sabotage. Out of options, I called my old buddy from the Army, Mike Lawson, now a reporter in Chicago. "This sounds like racketeering," he said after hearing it all. He dug into Elizabeth's past shady deals in other states, fake creds. "She's part of a bigger scam, Jack." That night, at midnight, pounding on my door, Max snarled as I grabbed the shotgun. Through the peephole, Elizabeth with 4 goons, waving papers. "Court order for seizure," she yelled. I cracked the door. "Midnight raids? That's not legal." Her men advanced. Max exploded out, tackling one. I fired another warning shot. "Back off." Sirens wailed. Sheriff Dawson arrived with deputies, Mike trailing with a camera. The order was fake, seals phony. "You're under arrest for fraud," Dawson told her. Turns out, federal agents had been watching. Her group was a nationwide extortion ring, preying on rural folks. Arrests followed. Her network crumbled, assets seized to repay victims like me. In the weeks after, the community healed. Buyers returned with apologies. The co-op waived fees. Mike's article went viral, exposing the scam. My farm thrived again, tags replaced, herd healthy. Elizabeth got 20 years, her threats empty. Justice won, but it made me ponder, how many suffer in silence? What do you think? Would you have fought back with everything, or sought compromise? Share in the comments, especially on violence and injustice in everyday life. Take a stand. Is force ever justified against bullies, or does it perpetuate the cycle? Your views could spark a real discussion. Let's hear them.